So sometimes you want to do something more, let's say, than just doing speech or a simple set of commands. Sometimes you want to use native libraries in Java itself to do something more sophisticated. Typically, when we do polyglot programming, the reason why we use another language is because it has some capabilities that might be better than other languages. So, for instance, Java is very good at building things like user interfaces. So in this Python module, you can see what we're doing here is it's called window. So the Python module is called window. We're registering it as capital window. So that means that when we try to call this module, we'll call it in the system arguments by typing window in the second line command. And I'll show you that. Well, I can show you that now, I guess. So if you go to run configurations, we can just simply change this speech argument to window, and that'll allow us to call this specific module. Okay, so now that's going to be called. So what's actually going to happen when we call it? So you can see the show message argument as window. So this method is actually registered as the method to be called. It's going to create a frame, a Java frame. So Java creates has a number of different classes that allows it to create things like frames, GUI basically interfaces that allow you then to show something. So we create a frame. A frame is basically nothing more than a container that has other sets of information like texts and panels, which you can also create using standard Java inputs. So again, you have to go to the Java sort of libraries to look at what's required. You can do that by going to the Java docs. So if I wanted to know what Java frame requires, I could either perhaps hover over it and go look at frame window here. I can look at that, and or rather I can go to the JFrame. Well, in this case it's not connected, but you can also just Google it. So if I wanted to go, for instance, look at the Java frame, I can just simply JFrame Google Docs, rather, not Google Docs. So Java Docs is it called, and that'll allow me to see what the Java doc looks like. This is Java 7, but it hasn't really changed much in Java 8. So in Java 7, you can see basically this gives us a set of arguments. That exit all cookies, yada yada. Okay, accept all the arguments that's required. So you can see, for instance, methods that are applied in the Java frame. So in terms of the constructors, also that tells you what's required for the inputs. So this gives you examples, for instance, how to add a child. So frame, again, is a container. So this is nothing more than an explanation of how to use different Java applications. And so here's an example of constructors that can be used in Java. So we basically do the same thing. We give it the input that's required, except we're using Python. So here we're giving it some of the inputs that are used to create a Java frame, which is the message, the text, the different sort of requirements for exiting, the size of the frame, making it visible, which is true, and then we're adding stuff to it. So we're adding more text. This will show you the text output. We're creating a panel within that, which is another sort of container that allows us to create the flow. That is the sort of how the frame is going to actually look like with the information in it, and also the background color. So that's all going to be created, and then we're doing a bunch of things like adding a button and adding other things to it. All this is sort of not necessarily required, but just to show you that you can do a different set of applications within this set of Java calls that are implemented. So you can see the Java libraries are all here. These are Java Swing and AWT, which are the libraries usually used for GUI interfaces. So Java frames, components, and those kinds of things are all part of that. So we're using Java for its strength here as something that allows us to create a GUI. So let's run this and just see what it looks like. So this is what it should do if you run this. So if I just press run, we should now hopefully see a frame coming up with the appropriate GUI created. So you can see this hello Mark there. It's an empty frame, but it gives you a second, and then it becomes sort of populated with other stuff. And here it's got a little color to it. Has a button that says click me. You can click it, and then it says clicked on the console over there. So that's nothing really fancy, but it shows you a way to express some of the outputs that we've created from the message being sent in.